Hi again, everybody. My name is Greg Anderson, and this is the Good Timekeeping Show with Greg Anderson. Now, in the past, I've shown you this watch here, and this was my first ever Casio watch. I bought this in Cochabamba, Bolivia in the year 1985. And so, I've always talked about this as my first Casio watch. But what I didn't really realize until recently, I just hadn't paid close enough attention. The first Casio device I ever had was actually this one, which came just a few years earlier. And it makes sense because Casio was well known as a calculator company before they became well known as a watch company. And, they make other products too. They still make calculators and, in fact, they make digital keyboards, stuff like that. In fact, I have one, just recently got one. I'll have to tell you about our little digital piano. It's a Casio, but I wanted to show you this one because this one's just kind of a fun thing. That it's a throwback to the 1970s, about 45 years ago. So in case you weren't around during the 1970s, or even if you were, you might not remember the fact that calculators like this were not very common at the beginning of the decade. I don't know if I'd seen them anywhere, but by the end of the decade, just about everybody had something like this in their home, either LCD like this or something with an LED digital readout. So the small handheld calculator was a thing that just kind of didn't exist at the beginning of the decade, and then suddenly they were all over the place. And the kids like me, we really wanted a calculator because it would help with our math homework. We just had never had anything else like this. I guess, people used slide rules back before that in the 1960s, and, you see it in NASA videos and stuff. They were using slide rules to do complicated mathematical problems. But it just was a luxury to suddenly have a calculator. Every kid wanted one, but I saw this one, and this was unique to me. So rather than getting a calculator just like everyone else had, I wanted this one, and you can see how unique it is because it's so small. Here are some coins to give you a reference here. So, a nickel. Here's a quarter from the 1970s right here. So you can see how small this calculator was. Here's a 50-cent piece from the 1970s. You don't see many of those anymore. And a silver dollar. Look at how big that is compared to the calculator. Or should I say, look at how small the calculator is compared to that coin. So, that just gives you an idea. When I saw this calculator, in the display case, I just thought, now that's the calculator I want to have. I didn't really care who made it. I just saw that it was a Micro Mini calculator, and it looked really cute. And of course, it did everything that a typical calculator at the time would do. And so when it came time for me to say, hey, I'd like a calculator, this was my stocking stuffer for Christmas of, it was either 1977 or 78, maybe 1979, but I doubt it. I think I already had it by then. So, give or take, I would say 1977. But we're talking about nearly 45 years ago that I got this thing. And so it's cute. It runs on just a little button cell battery like this one. So, that's like an A76 battery or an LR44 battery. And, if you're going to go with a button cell battery for a device, I would much rather have it be this LR44 battery than any other size of button cell battery. Those seem to be the most common, the most easy to get. And so now the big question is, does this thing still work? So it's got a little power switch there on the side. Let's try it. Oh, look at that. Of course it works. It's a basic 8-digit calculator, add, subtract, multiply, divide, and even has a little bit of a memory there. So, have some fun with that. And it just so cute and so nice and just does what it does. So yeah, that's the one I just had to have. And so the other day, I kind of forgot that I had this. And I was looking for some other things, just some tools I hadn't used for a while, trying to do some stuff for my computer. And as I looked around and kind of looked under the different layers of sediment in all my tools and gadgets and things that are lying around in boxes and drawers and wherever, I stumbled upon this. I said, oh yeah, there's that calculator that I liked so well. And when I got it out, took a look at it, I realized it's a Casio. That means this was my first Casio that I ever had in the late 1970s, even before I had this nifty watch here that I bought in 1985. I had this thing, and look at it, it still works. Isn't that so cute? Of course, it makes sense. Casio was well known as a calculator company before they made watches. and they still make calculators today. Like this is a really nice one here. In a lot of ways, still very similar. You know, it's got still the 8-digit readout, add, subtract, multiply, divide, memory. It's also got the square root function. It's got, the plus or minus and the percentage. So, and a little solar cell there. It says two-way power. So this one has a kind of a built-in battery if you don't have enough light, and a little solar cell. So, this is a very common and inexpensive Casio that you can still get today if you need a calculator. But if you really want to throw back to the 1970s, look at this one. I still have this one and it works. And then, of course, if you'd rather have a throwback to the 1980s, you can still get these for pretty cheap at your local Walmart store, essentially unchanged since the mid-1980s here. It's your, Casio watch with, once again, an 8-digit calculator built in. It's a little bit more tricky to use because those are really small buttons. But hey, if you're feeling some nostalgia for some throwback Casio calculator devices, you can go get this one right now at your local Walmart store and feel like you've just gone back to the future or back to the past, whatever, into the 1980s with your cool Casio calculator watch. But anyway, if the 1970s is your thing and you would really prefer to have some 1970s action, maybe you can find one of these out there somewhere, the Casio Micro Mini. Yeah, all the cool kids have these, right? And look at how cute and cool that is. It came with like a little jewelry box case and this cute little pouch. So you could put that in your pocket and, sneak it into your 7th grade class when it was time to take a math test. No, I didn't do that. No, but I probably carried it around with me just for the sake of carrying it around with me. But yeah, if they said you can't use a calculator on your math test, I didn't. All right. So anyway, that's all for now. I got some more watch videos coming up, so I hope you will join me again for another episode of The Good Timekeeping Show.